Hey friends, welcome to the second episode of the Honest Answer podcast. Yes, we have a name. It's been a wild week, and thank you for all the feedback, all the questions submitted for the Q&A. I've been overwhelmed with questions, which I'm really excited to get into for this session. I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying putting myself out there. I'm really enjoying this, being able to speak my truth and speak as openly and honestly as I possibly can. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been challenging to get to this point. And I think I mentioned it in episode 1. All the things that stopped me from taking action, they were still there when I was releasing the first episode, filming the first episode, and making the reels and the shorts and the clips and the highlights from the first episode. But it was just a little bit quieter, and I took action regardless. So I'm excited to just be here filming this second episode coming into 2025. So it's the first episode of 2025. Yeah, let's see where this goes. I really appreciate everyone and everyone's feedback on the first episode, where we're going. The piece for me here is it's kind of interesting. I don't really necessarily know where I'm going to take this and where this is going to go, but I'm leaning in and I'm listening to my heart. I'm listening to the truth, and I spoke about that on the first episode. And we're just going to take it one step at a time, see where this goes, continue to lean in. I've got the first guest lined up, which is really exciting. It's going to be an in-person interview style podcast, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I know we're going to have a lot of fun, so I've been prepping for that. But yeah, episode 2, I thought I'd do a Q&A, again, solo, just to help the audience understand, a little bit more about me, but also just answer questions that you have, from my experience. And, I can only answer from my experience and what I believe to be truth. And, you can listen to that and take what you want from this episode and really feel into it if it's true for you or not, because I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I feel like things are coming through me, and yes, I'm basing a lot of these questions and a lot of the answers to these questions on my skills, knowledge, and experience in the past, all the experiences I've had in the past. But sometimes things just come through and I just answer them honestly as I possibly can. So yeah, let's lean in. Let's have some fun. My intention for this episode is to have a little bit more fun and relax and enjoy a little bit more. I'm not going to lie, I've had a coffee for the first time in 6 weeks, so I'm a little bit buzzing and I'm a little bit up here. So let's see if we can just enjoy and have some fun, but let's crack into it. So I've got, so many questions here. I've just thrown them all in ChatGPT. I haven't really looked at them. I have obviously a gist of what's there. And I'm just going to get ChatGPT to randomly shoot them out, and I'll answer the questions as best we possibly can. So let's jump in to the first one. Beautiful. Interesting first question. What have you learnt about yourself from previous relationships? I think the biggest one, which has been apparent to me recently, is I tend to project a fantasy onto reality, and not necessarily see reality for where reality is, right? So whether that be personal, a business partnership, romantic, I tend to look at the best and almost project a vision of what could be of the future onto that particular relationship, instead of seeing the behaviors, the values, the characteristics of a person for who they are. There's a saying, it goes, I think I might butcher it, but it goes something along the lines of, people will show you who they are, let them. And that's the piece. I tend to project the best onto people, which can sometimes lead to me being easily manipulated. And that takes even a lot for me to say, because of all the, training I've done on behavioral psychology in general, sociology, like all the how to understand people, linguistics, all those things. And yet I still feel I have a blind spot where I can potentially be manipulated because I project onto people. And that's not fair for them either, right? So that puts them in a pressure situation where they feel like they have to live up to a vision or a fantasy of who I think they are. But here's the balance, right? So this is the paradox for me when it comes to relationships. It doesn't matter what type of relationship. There's seeing reality for the way it is, but then also seeing people in such a way that you believe in them almost more than they do, right? So this is the piece, and this is where the balance and the dichotomy of this comes into play. I now know to look at reality the way it is, look at someone's behaviors, characteristics, values, and, yes, what they're saying, but it's less about what they're saying and more about how they're behaving. I can look at that in a person and go, okay, this is reality. But also I see so much of who you could be. Like, I see your soul. I see the glimpses of who you could be. And I want to support you, if that is your truth, to be more of who you are. And that was the whole, first episode, right? How can I support myself to be more of who I am, but also the others around me, if they ask, right? Because some people, they don't want to be more of who they are. And that's where you can get stuck in a tricky situation of, judgment or, again, projection. Whereas some people are just happy where they are, and that's okay. And that's the accepting reality for what it is. But I think the best thing when it comes to that situation is just to actually lead with love, not judge. And then, just, again, you do more of you. You become more of who you are. And that will give people permission to be more of who they are, instead of trying to force things. Because when there's a force, there's a resistance, right? There needs to be an equal and opposite resistance that comes into play. So I just feel that being able to see reality for the way it is has given me much more peace and joy in the present moment, and just being present with whatever outcome happens when it comes to relationships, and a sense of surrender. And that's a recently learned lesson as well. I would have logically known it, but I hadn't integrated it in the heart. And I think there's a difference there, right? So you can, again, it's like mental masturbation, right? You can learn all these things and not do anything with it. So as soon as you integrate it and you start acting and you're choosing to do something differently with that information, that's learning. It's not the information coming in, like I can just spit out information and facts that I've learned. It's actually, no, this is how I'm living. I'm living in integrity. So yeah, that's the piece. There's so many different lessons that I've learned, obviously, from relationships, especially romantic ones. But I think for me, it's just allowing people to be who they are and show you who they are. And if, your values align, if you're climbing up this a same or similar mountain, if there's alignment there, particularly in romantic relationships, right? It's like, I look at in romantic relationships, I look at sort of 4 different areas. Like, do you have similar values and beliefs? do you have a similar vision or mission for the future? Like, do you like practically, right? Like, do you both want kids? Do you both want to, you know, like, are you both okay being in business, or does one want to go live the van life and the other person wants to build, this business, or, so there needs to be a alignment in vision for the future. There obviously needs to be attraction and sexual attraction. That's a piece. And I think hobbies and interests are not necessarily as important as a lot of people think, but they're up there. I think that's a bonus, right? I think the biggest piece, and they've studied this at the Gottman Institute, the biggest piece isn't necessarily that you have the same or similar interests and hobbies. It's that you can acknowledge and find and almost like help that your partner be seen with their hobbies. So if your partner's into, I don't know, bird watching, right? And they want to tell you about their bird watching that they did on the weekend. It's actually like listening to them and asking them questions, actually being curious about it. And it's less about going and doing bird watching with them, right? So it's helping your partner be seen that way. I feel like I went down many different side quests and rabbit holes with that one, but yeah, we'll leave that one there. What's the next question? Would you rather talk like Jar Jar Binks or look like Jar Jar Binks? I'm not going to lie. I had to look up who Jar Jar Binks was, some Star Wars character. I would definitely say talk like Jar Jar Binks, because he's, I assume it's a he, is very unfortunate looking and sounds very unfortunate as well. But I definitely would rather talk like Jar Jar Binks. Thank you, Georgie. Next question. Oh, man. That's gold. What is your purpose and how do you see yourself fulfilling it? This question has changed very recently. So let me attempt to articulate what it was and what I feel like it actually is. If you asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have said my purpose, my why, like why I do what I do or why I'm here on this planet, is to invoke evolution. So help people be more of who they are, essentially, right? And that sounds great. That is a great purpose in my mind, and it's still something that I hold very high regard. But that as a reason to exist, if I'm not doing that, your unconscious mind goes down the rabbit hole of like, okay, well, if every second that I'm not doing that in my life, the unconscious mind goes down the rabbit hole of, well, what's the point, right? So 2024, big year of letting go, lots of, psychological ego deaths, lots of things that I've had to let go of, untruths that I spoke about in episode 1. Imagine the weight of knowing that the whole reason for your existence is to invoke evolution in people, and every second that you're not doing that, you feel like a piece of shit. That's the extreme, and I use those words quite provocatively, but that's the extreme of your unconscious mind, because it's quite black and white, how it feels if I have that belief that that's my purpose and my why for being here, right? So I kind of had to let that one go. And it's not that I don't hold that to a high regard, but to answer your question to what I believe it is right now, still evolving, still kind of trying to find it. But the essence is my purpose in life is to be me, to be more of who I am, to let go of anything that's not me and to live in truth, right? That is actually my purpose, right? And if you can just sit with that, it's like, if my purpose is to be, my shoulders just relax a little bit. I can just be here right now. I can be present. I can do the things that I feel called and drawn to. And I don't have to, there's no pressure to have to do this big thing. And every second that I'm not doing it, I am beating myself up with shame and the should stick and all the things. It's like, no, I can just be. I can just be me, because that's what I believe that I'm here to do, is be me. And by being me, I can also give, and this isn't the reason why I'm being me, but I can also give people permission to do the same. I can, like I said in the previous question, right? I can be by being more of who I am, being more authentic, letting go of things that, got me this far, but are no longer truths. They're limiting beliefs. Then, yeah, I can relax. I can enjoy life. I think we're here to enjoy life. I think the last 10 years have been going against the current, because I felt like that was the thing I had to do, right? Pushing against the flow, like pushing up river instead of going down river. And the older I get, the more personal development and reflection I've done and situations I've been in, the more I realize that I need to just go with the flow. It's Tai Chi. Go with the energy. Go with where the energy is taking you. Stop resisting what is. And just be more of you, right? And that doesn't give you an excuse to be, for lack of a better term, a piece of shit, right? It doesn't give you an excuse for you to just say, oh, well, people just need to accept me for who I am. The piece that a lot of people don't understand is who you think you are isn't who you are, right? We all have an ego, and it's an identity. It's the masks that we wear. It's the things that we attach. It's the labels we attach ourselves to. When, those are all the things we think we are, but we actually aren't. When you let all of that go, you actually are you. You're authentically you. And there is a subtle, once you truly get this, there's a subtle, understanding and development of discernment that is this truth for me? Does this connect with my values, my beliefs, where I want to go in the world, the vision that God, or whatever you believe in, for me it's God, has put on my life? Or does this not? Does this keep me safe? Does this keep me small? Does this keep me stuck? Do I actually, this behavior that I'm sort of justifying, do I actually believe that this is me? Or am I just not, there's shame or guilt, or there's blind spots around me actually becoming more of who I am because it's difficult and challenging. And yeah, the piece with being more of who you are is it doesn't have to be hard, but it can be. I think the less that we resist of letting go of what we know, because we do know everything that you have, every single resource is within you, right? You know, you can meet yourself where you're at. You know whether a thing, a behavior, a relationship, a direction that you're going in life is truth or it's not. You have a subtle inclination. There's a little whisper that your heart and your mind, but usually it comes from the heart. They've studied this. Usually the heart or the unconscious mind, again, whatever you want to believe, whatever sort of angle you want to look at it, your heart knows before your head knows. And they've studied this. Before the thought even comes, the heart knows. There's neurons in the heart. Its own little brain in the heart. We have our own little brain in our heart, and we have a brain in our gut as well. And they all serve their purpose. So in a roundabout way, my purpose is to be. And the way that I do that is I become more of who I am. I show up to the world as authentically as I can be, even when it's uncomfortable. And I do that. Like, that's it, right? So whatever's placed on your heart, whatever talents, skills, knowledge, and experience that you've gathered across the journey that you're on, wherever you are in the journey, it's just about really, self-reflection is the big piece that I feel like really helps. It's like being by yourself in your own quiet, journaling, whatever the thing is that helps you, go inward and just reflect, what is it that I want out of life, and who am I? What do I believe in? Because I would hazard a guess that a lot of us, including myself, have picked up beliefs that aren't actually ours. We have values that we never questioned. We have opinions that we've picked up from Instagram or TikTok, and we've never actually questioned why we believe what we believe. And I think questioning why you believe what you believe and who you think you are is the step, the wrestle. There is an inevitable wrestle that comes with it. And again, depending on how much you resist the wrestle will depend on how challenging it is to become more of who you are. But again, a lot of people think that they have to learn more, do more, gain more to be more of who they are. A lot of the times, and in fact, majority of the time in my experience, is you just have to actually let go of the things that aren't you. The masks, the identity, the beliefs that you've adopted that aren't actually yours. It can be from your parents, it can be from siblings, it can be from school, it can be from different communities, it can be from Instagram. It's just letting go of who you think you are, that isn't actually you. And yeah, it can be a hard concept to grasp, but once you start understanding, like just start with the small steps. Like, take time to yourself and take 10, 15 minutes to like really listen in to the whispers of your heart, the whispers of your soul. And you'll start to understand what's within integrity of that authenticity and what actually is out of integrity and authenticity. Big question, but I see myself fulfilling it by just being me. And one step at a time and one walk. It's the path of that's been less traveled, right? So because we're all on our own unique paths. If you're on a path that you feel like has been traveled before, well, you're probably not on your own. You're probably on somebody else's. So maybe take some time to reflect on that. Next question. These are great questions. I'm loving this so far. What are 5 simple habits I can start in 2025 to be my best year yet? 5 habits. I really like the idea of a Sabbath. That's the first thing that's coming up. So one day a week where you don't work, you focus on the 3 R's. So rest, reflection, and relationship. I think that's really important, right? So one day a week, regardless of your religious beliefs or your relationship with God, whatever you believe in, right? I believe in principle, this having a Sabbath is a really good principle to have, because we work so hard. We are in a society that's, again, such hustle, such go, 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 such on to the next thing without actually stopping and reflecting to see how far we've come and to actually see if, again, we're on the right path, if we're walking up the right mountain or not, right? So I think locking in and scheduling a Sabbath once a week. And again, in my experience, focusing on rest. So not necessarily working, or, you can tinker around the house and do some housework and stuff like that. I don't think that's necessarily working per se. Like, what the difference is between working and what isn't. Rest, reflection. So again, journaling, going outside, going for a walk, being present with self, reflecting on the week that has been, the quarter that has been, the year that has been, but then also reflecting on what, the week that is to come. And then relationships. So connecting with important people in your life, I think, is so important. Being able to, connect with the community, connect with your friends, reflect with your friends and your community and your family. Being able to do that, I think, is really important. So I think that is a habit and a hack that I would bring into 2025 religiously. Switch your phone off for that day, or put on do not disturb if you can. And I totally appreciate that some people, depending on your life situation, you can't do a full day, but whatever time that you can put to yourself, I encourage you to put yourself first in that rest, reflection, and relationship, and schedule a time, whether it's 4 hours, half a day. Do that for yourself, and I think you'll start to see great benefit from that. Number 2, habit. Exercise, definitely. And I know that's an obvious one, but what are you doing for exercise, especially if you're a male lifting? I mean, male and female, but males especially. I find, again, I can only speak on behalf of me. I am a male. Lifting heavy stuff, it just makes me feel so much better. If I go a week without gym, for whatever reason, I'm usually a 4 to 6 times per week gym goer. If I go a week without it, I notice a difference in my mental health and my focus and my energy. So being able to consistently lift weights, find time, even if it's half an hour, find time to move your body. Because sure, you can justify, but I can only go for half an hour, so what's even the point? It's like, well, you'll feel better, you'll have more clarity, you'll have more energy. There is a point. And if you can go for half an hour and maybe you can stretch it to 45, well, then you've got a good session. I did a gym session the other day when I was down at the beach, family beach house, and I went to a local gym, and I was feeling exhausted and like almost falling asleep as I was driving. It wasn't good, but just heavy eyes, and I was like, I really don't feel like going to the gym. But then I got there. I'm like, okay, I'll just give myself permission to move my body and lift some weights, and it doesn't have to be a super hard session. I got there. The first exercise I did, yes, it was light and it wasn't very intense. But then as I got into it, I just felt amazing. So being able to sometimes push through when you feel like you're exhausted, but then also, again, this is the dichotomy, this is the balance, knowing to listen to your body and when not to push through. Because I actually do believe that you need that discernment with it. Like, your body knows whether you're just being lazy or coming up with excuses, or you're genuinely like need to rest. So when you have a rest day, not shaming yourself and whipping yourself with the should stick, actually enjoying it, right? Because again, the more you can learn to trust yourself and what your body's telling you, the more that you can just go with the flow and listen to your body, listen to be in tune with what you need at any one time. I think that's a piece. I think cutting out seed oils. I can hear some of the boys laughing from the distance. Cutting out seed oils is a big piece. I recently did a parasite and gut cleanse, parasite mold and gut cleanse, and I didn't realize how inflamed my body was and how jacked my nervous system was until I eliminated seed oils, again, coffee. Although, yeah, I love coffee. Coffee is just decaf. We'll stick to decaf. Yeah, seed oils. Some people, again, it's gluten or it's wheat, but usually I think it's the stuff that they spray it with, so glyphosate. So being able to get organic where possible, good quality meat, not grain-fed, grass-fed, if you can. I understand that it's so expensive out there. Yeah, just being able to eat whole foods and cutting out seed oils, I think is the big piece. And I know that some people have dairy intolerances and stuff like that, so they can't cook with butter. So they use things like Nuttelex and stuff. Use beef tallow. Beef tallow is just a rendered fat from a cow. So it's a great thing to cook in, and deep frying as well. I love beef tallow, and it makes it taste even better. I did I've got a Dutch background, and we do croquettes. We fried croquettes in instead of canola oil. The last time we had them, we fried them in beef tallow, and they tasted amazing. They tasted so much better. So cut out seed oils, eat whole foods, work out, have a Sabbath. What else? Get some sun in your eyes as much as you possibly can early in the morning. I think even if it's for 5 minutes, direct sunlight, I found that really helps. And, I'm trying to think of practical things that just... Because I can say, get in the sauna. Sauna's great. Ice bath is great. But again, it's not always practical to say get in the sauna 4 times a week. But sauna is another great one. What would be the last habit? What's coming up is practicing discernment. And again, that kind of leads into the reflection of the Sabbath and all of that, but learning how to listen to your body and what is truth and what isn't. And every time, right? So I feel like, I'll speak on behalf of me when it comes to discernment. I feel like when you ignore your intuition and your discernment and what your authenticity is, the more you ignore it, the more it becomes white noise, and you can't discern, you can't differentiate between, do I go left or do I go right? Because there's so much noise and there's so much weeds and so much conflicting opinion in your head and in your heart that you can't, it's like there's so much noise up here that you can't hear this. So learning how to drop in before a decision is made and really listen to, okay, what's truth here for me? What's authentic Tyson, or authentic insert your name? What do they want? And it's not even what do they want? It's, again, what's truth? What's the right choice? Even right's not quite the right word. It's truth. What's truth right now? What decision do I need to make? What's going to lead me more into the direction of who I want to be and more into authenticity? And I think that is a great habit to practice, and that goes along with implementing a Sabbath. The other piece is, and this you can turn this into a habit, but it's something that comes up and it sort of ties in well to discernment, is learning how to make decisions that you need to make, and take action on decisions that you need to make as quickly as possible. So if you've made a decision and you know that, again, you've checked in, you've learned, you've really lent into your discernment, you've made that decision. The quicker we can close the gap between decision and action, the quicker you're going to level up in life, and the quicker you're going to get to where you need to go and be more of who you are. Even though it's not a race and it's not necessarily about the outcome, it's all the noise and the anxiety cost that in between decision and in between action that you accumulate, right? If you know you need to do something, shorten that gap between decision and action and just go do it. And I think you'll find you'll be more present. You'll be more kind to yourself. You'll start trusting yourself a little bit more, and that discernment that you're developing will become stronger and stronger and clearer. So that's another habit that I recommend implementing. And yeah, we'll leave it there. I think that was more than 5. So next question. Just going to grab a drink here. What was the key moment that sparked your curiosity to seek truth? Great question. Let me just feel into this for a second. I think I would have probably been about 18, 19, 20. Actually, yeah, 20 turning 21 would have been a pivotal time in my life. It was a pivotal time in my life. It definitely was a pivotal time in my life. Around 20, potentially turning 21, I decided that the life path and the trajectory I was going down, was scary, right? Like I was anxious, I was depressed, I was not living up to my full potential, or again, what I could comprehend as my full potential at that time. I just kind of knew that where I was going and the life that I was living wasn't it. I just had this sense. I didn't know anything else than that. I just had this sense. And that sense of not wanting to live like this, and then also wanting to help people not feel what I felt, and again, sort of get out of that rut. That sparked the authenticity. That sparked the interest of going on the journey of this path of seeking truth, personal development, business, entrepreneurship. That was the thing. That was sort of the catalyst, I think. There was a relationship breakup. It was the first love. It was the puppy. Yeah, it was the puppy love, but it was still, we had many key moments together. We traveled overseas for the first time together. We, experienced a lot of firsts together. So I was going through a bit of a crisis when that relationship ended, and I was an apprentice mechanic, and I was like, there's got to be more than this. And again, it's not the judgment of being a mechanic, or like, if that was my truth, then that was my truth. But I knew within my heart that I was just kind of settling, and I just kind of fell into this thing. I wasn't living authentically and deliberately. I was just kind of going wherever life sort of took me, because bit of a backstory. I was a swimmer, and when I decided to retire in swimming, that's when I sort of got into the apprenticeship piece. And yeah, my biggest fear, and this was the driver to seek truth as well, was not wanting to quote unquote be normal. Although I understand that now is actually it's not necessarily a healthy belief, but it got me to where this point where I needed to go, right? So I didn't want to be quote unquote normal. So what's the driver of that? Well, the driver is the need of significance. So everything that I did was driven by significance. And I just wanted to be more significant, and because I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel like the path that I was on was enough. And again, I'm kind of just exploring this question, which is a great one, on why I'm seeking the truth. I think, again, if I was to just summarize it into two parts, I had a sense that where I was going wasn't it. And I had the driver of significance because I didn't feel like I was enough to want to make something of myself and want to, quote unquote, not be normal. And again, there is some good aspects of that. Like, not being normal, I don't think, like, what is normal? Well, normal is in the middle of the freaking bell curve distribution of people. So a normal equals mediocre, right? And mediocre, for a lot of people, again, if you're authentically you're not going to be normal. You're going to be weird. You're going to be different because you're you and no one is you. So therefore, normal is just, stuck in the matrix and sort of living life on autopilot. So there is good aspects of that driver, but that wasn't the primary driver with that. The primary driver was I felt like a piece of shit. I felt like I wasn't good enough. So I was driven everything by significance. And sort of looping back to the first question when I was talking about manipulation and knowing that I can be manipulated in relationships, I now know that people used that driver of significance to get what they wanted out of me. And that could be in career, that could be in romantic relationships, platonic friendships and stuff like that. And, I'm so fortunate to have the people that I have in my inner circle and the people around me that are just so beautiful, such beautiful souls. And, I've got many different friends in different circles, but one common denominator that I see with people in my life that I've surrounded myself with is they do just want to be more of who they are. They want to be more authentic. They're on their journey in their own different ways, and sometimes we align in values and beliefs and the mountain that we're climbing on more than other friendships and relationships. But that doesn't matter. Innately, I understand that the people in my life that are close to me, they just want to be good people. They want to be them. They want to seek truth in one way, shape, or form. And some people it's more extreme than others. But yeah, that's the piece. I feel like I feel like those are the two bits. It's to sort of loop back around from the side quests I went on, seeking like more, becoming more of who I am, and knowing like the sense that this path that I was on and the life that I was living, there had to be more out there. But then number two, it was actually being driven by significance and not feeling like I'm enough. And now that I've let go of that, there's this freedom and a sense, because again, it served me up until a point. It got me the skills, knowledge, and experience that I needed, but I got cut up and bruised and battered along the way. Let's just say that, right? And sometimes I don't think that's necessarily necessary, but it's not, unfortunately. The reality is that it's majority of our paths that's what happens. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to go on that journey of getting battered and bruised and to let go of that belief. So yeah, another side quest question, and I went down multiple different rabbit holes there, but I think that should answer your question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I have no idea. I've got a sense and a vision. And again, you asked me this question 12 months ago, I would have given you the grandest vision. I would have projected onto the future, and this was a theme and yeah, this was a pattern of mine. I would project onto the future because I wasn't looking at reality for where I wasn't in reality, right? Reality was too hard to bear. Certain traumas and things that I won't necessarily go into, but the reality was really hard to bear. So I would project onto the future. I'll project, and it happened in all different areas. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I project in relationships. I project in my finances. I project in my career, my calling. I project in my fitness or my health. I'd project in so many different areas of like, oh, no, like it's okay because I know in a year or 2 years or 3 years, I'll be in a completely different situation. I can, I would live in that fantasy of the future instead of just what do I need to do right now. So I've got a sense of where I'm going. I would love for this podcast to go where it need to go. Let's just say that. And that would be amazing if that's the path. Amazing. I also know that I do get the sense that I'm called to business. And maybe this ties into the podcast, maybe it doesn't. But business is a big piece for me. I love business. I've been a consultant for 8+ years, business consultant. For 8+ years, I've been in that space. I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I love helping people in that space. So business is definitely on the cards. I want to set up a life where I have the freedom to choose. So I have the freedom to choose how I spend my time. And with that, in essence, there obviously becomes an abundance of, wealth creation. So wealth isn't just necessarily finances to me. Again, it's the people you have around you, the community, the resources that you can to just do more of what you feel called to do. So freedom. In 5 years, if I could be in a spot where I'm working on the projects and spending 100% of my time doing what I feel called to do, and working on the projects that I'm working on to create more impact and lean into my calling a little bit more, have the freedom to choose how I spend my time, where I spend my time, have that freedom and flexibility, and just being able to create more and more impact, help people seek more and more truth. I think that is the piece. Like being around good people, learning from different people, and just having fun, enjoying it. I think this is probably another little rabbit hole, but and side quest. But I think when you spend the better part of 10 years driven, and probably longer than that, just in awareness, 10 years, driven by significance and wanting to create impact and change the world and do all that, but really that wanting to change the world and create impact and help people is actually just you wanting to feel significant, which again is a lot for me to say. And it's not that, just a caveat around that, it's not that wasn't true as well as me driven by significance. It can be both, right? It's not life's not black and white. It can be both of those things. It's the dichotomy. But when you spend the better part of 10 years driven by that, and that's it, every second you're not doing that, you feel like something's wrong. You can't necessarily enjoy life, right? So everything becomes a little bit more serious, right? Everything becomes self-sacrificing. You're putting others before yourself because you feel like by putting others before yourself, then you're going to get the significance that you're seeking. It's all just about hustle and work and grind and all this stuff that, again, in isolation with the right intention is good values and principles. But I want to bring more enjoyment into my life. And if I can, I want to let go of that so I can bring more joy into the process of just growing and developing and seeing where things go. I think that brings an inner confidence, that brings a lightness, and you can sort of let go of the baggage and the burden that you're sort of carrying on your shoulders, and you can just kind of be. just relax. I feel like a lot of people are scared to let that driver go because they're scared if they let that driver go, they won't be as driven enough to get to where they want to go. I actually feel like it's the opposite. I actually feel like it becomes easier, it becomes less effort, and you get there quicker when you let go of all the resistances that you're trying to push through, and all the things that are driving you that are actually limiting and not healthy. That's the piece for me. So yeah, another side quest. I guess this is where this podcast is going. Hopefully you guys are getting some value out of it. Geez, 52 minutes in. I think we need to, or roughly 52 minutes. I think we need to maybe start punching these out. Biggest health change you've made, and how has it made you feel? Yeah, diet. Honestly, diet. Like, that was the last sort of pillar in my health that I feel like I had to overcome. If I'm being really honest, I used to binge eat. That was definitely a driver for me. I'd be, Monday to Friday, I would eat reasonably well. And then come Saturday, I'll smash a pizza and a tub of popcorn or whatever, like order Uber Eats and just kind of splurge because I'll be like, I worked hard this week. I deserve to eat a treat, and the treat becomes 10,000 calories. Sometimes not an over-exaggeration. But I think, I think it's the food that I'm consuming in Whole Foods, and still being able to, it's still early days, but finding the balance between still being able to have that ice cream and know that I'm not going to all of a sudden just binge a whole tub. Like, have a scoop, eat that slice of pizza on occasion and have the self-trust to be able to do that. I think it's the big piece. But eating like 80 to 90% whole foods, cutting out seed oils, cutting out grains, cutting out milk that's not cold pressed raw. It depends like what your body responds to and what doesn't. Like gluten, I'm still playing around with. I'm not 100% sure with gluten yet. So yeah, it's really just listening to your body. What you're consuming is the big piece for me. That's made a massive, massive difference to, like, I feel more relaxed. I feel more present. I feel more focused. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like, again, I'm more of who I am when I'm not shoving myself with things that is making my body inflamed and jacking my nervous system 24/7. That's a big piece, right? And you can go down the rabbit hole of additives and processed foods and all those things. And I think everyone should educate themselves on what's in our foods and even what's in our whole foods, what's sprayed on our foods. But yeah, if you can eat whole foods, eat reasonably well 90% of the time, still enjoy yourself every now and then, I think that's the game changer, because there is even a psychological piece of building self-trust, of like learning what you put in your mouth and like being able to not have food control you, in a sense, like you control the food. Control might not even be the right word, but it's the best word that's coming to mind right now. It's like, you have control of what you put in your mouth. And it's that the time before you make the decision, that in between moment before you order the Uber Eats or eat that burger or do whatever, it's in that moment and you choose differently. That was also a mantra in 2024 for me, is choose differently. Choose differently, because clearly what I was choosing wasn't working. So look at the area in your life that, you feel like, and it could be health, because you asked that question, but look at the particular area in your life that you feel like you need that discipline in, and choose differently. What do you need to do in order to feel the way you want to feel? Go do that, because you already know what you need to do. Next question. On your deathbed, mate, great question. On your deathbed, how do you want to be able to describe the life that you lived, your accomplishments, and your beliefs as they played out throughout your years? Oh man, this is a big question. How would you want people to be able to describe the life that you lived, your accomplishments, and the beliefs that played out throughout your years? Again, if I can get to my deathbed and people describe me as authentic, as loving, as compassionate, as peaceful, that left them feel better in interactions than how they were feeling before in interaction. Maybe help some people along the way become more of who they were and be more authentic. I'm winning. Whether that's on a big, large scale or it's one-on-one interaction, if people can describe me as that, and I truly feel that in my heart, I think I've won. And I think that's a life well lived. Yeah, simple as that. Even though it's a big as question, but I think that's my honest answer. Why do you think dating in the modern age is so much more difficult? Also a big question. Also, I think there's many different factors to this. So I will attempt to articulate what I believe it to be. I'll attempt to articulate what I think it to be, or the main factors, right? I think there's multiple different factors. I think the biggest one is the introduction of social media and this sort of, how do I say this in a gentle way? This belief that we deserve everything without actually being that person. So if you think back 50 years ago, no social media, no internet, obviously there were cities, but we used to live more in community, and there would maybe be 1, 2, 3, or 4 potential partners that were sort of on your similar wavelength, values, trajectory in life, the similar mountain that you're climbing. There would be maybe 4 or 5 people in your sort of community. So all you had was 4 or 5 potential partners to choose from. And that was kind of it. And I think there is an element of paradox of choice. For those who don't know what paradox of choice is essentially the more choices you have, the less satisfied with the choice that you make you're going to be. So we've gone from maybe 5 potential life partners in our community that have similar interests and values and are climbing a similar mountain to millions, potential millions, right? Like access to the internet. You can date someone across the world. And we compare ourselves against the top 1% of the 1%. We compare ourselves against people's highlight reels and, all those types of things. So we think that we need what they're showing us, but it's just a highlight reel. So there is this paradox, but I think there is also a reality of people are waking up a little bit more to really not settling, although settling might not be the right word, but people are waking up a little bit more to actually, what do I want in a partner? What values do I want them to possess? Like, do I actually, instead of, this person in front of me is kind of, they seem all right. Yeah, we kind of get along. We got similar hobbies and interests, and I'm attracted to them. Let's get married. It's like, actually, are you a good person? Do you possess the values and beliefs that I want in a person? Are we going in a similar direction? Do you want me? Are you going to support me to be more of who I am? Are you going to support me when I'm not necessarily the same person that I was when I was married to now? Like, are you going to are we going to be able to go on that journey together? Of growing and evolving and being more of who we are and letting go of all the things that we're not. This is, they're big things. They're big questions. So I think we contemplate that more, but I also think the paradox of choice has a big part to play. Instead of 5 people, we have millions, and we've got constant access to constant individuals. Again, you look at dating apps, the although I think they can be good, and although they have worked for some people, I think the studies around it and the data suggests that people are less likely to stay in long-term relationships if they meet on a dating app, because one little thing that they're uncomfortable with, even if it's not necessarily a red flag, even if it's something they can work through, it's like they kind of, all right, well, I can just jump on the app and go to the next person. So yeah, paradox of choice plays a big part. I think this thinking that we deserve everything without actually being that person. So it's like, how do I track the person, the ideal partner that I want? Well, how do you be that person? Like, look at all the characteristics that you want in a partner. Now go do that. And then you will inevitably attract that person that you want in your life. And sometimes it's, depending on where you're at, it's maybe not necessarily what you want, but the person you need. So yeah, I think there's multiple different factors. I think also, actually, I'm going to leave it there, because the other factors, I'm going to be really honest, the other factors I'm not 100% sold on. And I feel like, although I've got a sense of it, I can't speak to it enough to really speak to those other factors. But I think those are the main ones. It's paradox of choice. It's believing we should deserve everything without actually being that person. And it's, I think that's as simple as that. Having built and managed a successful sales team, what are 3 key areas of focus that you would suggest someone doing the same thing? Great question. Business question. I love it. I love business. Bit of a change of topic. So, I think when building a sales team, or just a team in general, you need to begin with the end in mind. Salespeople, especially, the biggest piece that I've seen between successful salespeople and non-successful salespeople is, do they believe in what they're selling? So you need to support your team to believe in what you're selling. And if they don't believe it, they're not going to get the results that are required, because people feel you before they hear you. So if a salesperson's on the phone and they're talking and they don't actually believe in the product, but they want to get the sale because of commission and KPIs and blah, 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 all the things. If they don't truly believe it, the potential customer on the other end of the phone, they're going to feel that. And they're not necessarily going to consciously know it, but there's going to be something there that kind of just doesn't feel right. But if people are wholeheartedly believing in what they're selling, then the results naturally come, because they're more relaxed and authentic when they're selling, and they objections that come up or people's resistances and stuff like that is less of an issue, because they're like you'd be stupid not to buy, if that is actually what they're looking for. So yeah, I think them actually being sold on the product is the biggest piece, is the most important piece, and supporting the sales team to be to really believe in what they're selling. And I think that is a big piece when I'm growing a team, just a team in general, is like, do you actually care about the product or the service that we're providing? Because if you don't, that's okay, but really it's not. So I only want people on my team to be 100% sold in what it is we're providing. And that's going to be the big piece. I think the other piece is consistent. When it comes to sales, there's, a thing called transformational leadership. And I feel like as a leader, it's being able to, everyone has different skills, knowledge, and experience, and everyone responds differently. So when it comes to, I look at a team as, individual needs and individual support that are individual needs. And then it's also sort of the group support and the group needs and what the group needs. So when it comes to individual, it's like maybe one person needs to be, needs complete autonomy. And that's just that's how they get the most out of, that's how they get the best results. That's how they are the most authentic. That's how they're the most happy and fulfilled, when they've got complete autonomy. And that's, they hit their goals, they hit their intentions. We KPIs, all the things. Amazing. The next person, maybe they need a little bit more management, right? And I think there's a difference between leadership and management. Like that management piece, like some people, they need to have enough sort of pressure to support them to perform, because without it, then they don't. But here's the piece: if they actually truly believe in what it is that we're selling, you shouldn't actually need to push them very much. They're usually intrinsically motivated and autonomous, and they're driven to just support and help people regardless. But again, we don't know what's going on in people's personal lives, family lives, at home, all the things. So transformational leadership is being able to show up for an individual on any given moment, on any given day. That team member that that needs complete autonomy to perform, maybe on one particular day needs a little bit of management to, help them trot along. There is being able to show up for the needs of the individual and for the needs of the group, and sort of, just really feel into what the team needs at any one time. And that goes not just for a sales team, that goes for a team as a whole. I think is really important. And if you want to see your team thrive, that's the piece. And then I think the third piece would be, again, just finding people that are on a similar wavelength and have similar values. So being able to create company values or team values, if you're leading a team, is going to be really important, because whenever someone behaves in a certain way that's out of integrity from the values, you're not attacking them. You're just holding them accountable to the values, right? So if I had to give a piece of feedback, and let's say one of the values was for the business or the team was, we do what we say we will do, right? That's a behavior, that's an action, that's the value that we can hold ourselves and others to. If I give a piece of feedback from that place of, hey, can I give you a piece of feedback? Permission, yes. In the spirit of, we do what we say we'll do. You said you would get X, Y, Z, A, B, C done by X time. I noticed you haven't started it. What can I do to support you? It's very different to, hey, you said you'll get that done. What are you doing? Like that type of energy, right? I'm not attacking the person. I'm just holding them accountable to the behavior and to the values that we all agreed on as a team to hold each other by. So values are very important in business. I think we can go down, Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. That might be maybe a piece of content that I can talk about later, but there's many different things, and values is really important to create trust in a team, and trust so important. If you can't trust the person to your left and to your right to support you on the journey, even though sales is closest thing to running your own business, because you've got to hit certain KPIs, it can be quite black and white. Yeah, if you can't lean on each other for support, then yeah, that's a really big piece. But I could talk about that topic for hours, just on its own. I think those are three key pieces that we can lean into for now. You've been chasing purpose and success for a while now. What do those words mean to you, and have their meanings changed over time? Well, I did answer this question earlier on. As you know, it's definitely changed, and my definition of success has changed. So I'll touch on that, right? So there's purpose, which is your why. Your definition of success is like, in a day-to-day, it's kind of like your calling, it's your mission. But it's not necessarily an outcome. So your definition of success for me is, how do I know I'm in my day-to-day like living in alignment to what I feel like success means? Because success means many different things to many different people. Success isn't an outcome, although most people think it is. Success is kind of a being. It's kind of an action rather than, and this is the mindset shift that I'm trying to really adopt, is instead of like a particular outcome or goal, although it's good to have goals and good to have outcomes, it's like, how am I being in a day-to-day? So my definition of success is to use my God-given talents in a vehicle that I'm passionate about, or a calling, to build wealth. And again, wealth isn't just financial. Again, it's the abundance. It's the relationships. It's the impact I'm having. It's the freedom to choose how I spend my time and where I spend my time, and who I support. And notice how wealth is last. The most important piece when it comes to my definition of success is being able to use my God-given talents in a vehicle I'm passionate about, aka my calling. So that's my definition of success. As you already know, earlier on in the piece, I spoke about purpose. I can have a purpose of just being, and just being more of who I am and being authentic, whilst also having a definition of success of a marker to sort of reflect on whether I'm living authentically in where I want to go. That being my definition of success of, being able to utilize my gifts in a vehicle I'm passionate about to build wealth. That's it. Next question. Where does your motivation come from? Not feeling like I'm enough is where it was coming from. Definitely. Like, every driver was, and I know I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but every driver was, how can I be better so that I can win the approval of others? Now, I would say it's, how can I set my life up to feel the things I want to feel, be in more presence, be in more peace, have more freedom and abundance, feel like I'm happy and joyous and enjoying life in a day-to-day. And here's the piece. Every goal that I've had thus far and up until this point, and grand vision that I have for my life, it's still there. But it's not the driver. It's not like, I will get to that point. I know I'll get to that point. a lot more gracefully, in a lot more flow, in a lot more enjoyment. And I can just kind of flow. So that's where it did come from, not feeling like I was enough. And where it's at now is just being more authentically me. So I can be in the state that I thought those things were going to give me. And it is actually all within me. And that's the piece I was talking about in episode 1, is if we, it's the lie of the sacred object, right? The thing that you think once you get, it will give you the feeling that you want. So I would encourage anyone who's looking to, achieve a thing and think that once they achieve that, they'll feel the way that they want to feel. I would encourage people to ask themselves the question, what feeling do you want to feel? What feeling do you think that thing's going to give you? That's where to start. That's your starting point. It's like, I think it's going to give me more love or peace or acceptance or enjoyment. It's like, okay, interesting. How can I get that within myself right now? Because it's all within you. It's all there. We just need to stop externalizing things and creating false idols out of things and just look at truth, who we are in truth. So, yeah, that's my answer to that question. Biggest lesson learned in relationships that's going to help you navigate the next one. Well, I did speak about this, not projecting onto a person and just seeing them for who they are. I think it's a really big one. And what's another lesson? Let's lean into this. Because there seems to be a bit of a resistance to answering this. So I'm going to go there. Similar to the projecting onto somebody and the fantasy of what somebody could be or the fantasy of what the relationship could be, I think is again the piece of not ignoring your intuition when it comes to early on in relationships. Actually communicating, right? So there was a study done, and this is a really interesting one. Communication, let's just for context, communication fundamentally in relationships is very important, right? And I'm not discounting this from the study, but I thought it was very interesting information. So they studied 2 groups of individuals, a group where they identified that they had a great relationship and the relationship was really healthy and that they were in love and, again, all a very healthy, loving, fulfilling relationship. And then they had another group that identified that their relationship was struggling, and they were fighting and it wasn't great and it was maybe a little bit shaking on the rocks. They asked those 2 groups the exact same thing. What do you think is the most important thing to make a great relationship? Majority of the people in the relationships that were good and fulfilling and abundant and fun and all the things that were going well, majority of the people in that group said respect. The majority of the people in the other group said communication, right? So really interesting. I think communication is important, but unless you communicate respectfully and you realize that you're on the same team and that, it's not about that individual, like it's not about us versus them, or, you guys versus each other and winning. It's actually about you guys winning against the challenge or the issue that's coming up. I think that's a really big piece, right? Respecting yourself and the other person enough to actually realize that it's not about them. It's about, and again, this is context if you're in a healthy relationship, it's about the problem and the issue. So the prerequisites of all of that is they've got to have similar values. They've got to have similar beliefs. You got to have a baseline level of attraction and sexual attraction. You've got to be going in a similar place. Like if your partner's highly religious and you're an atheist, it's like, well, that's probably not going to work, right? Because your beliefs and values are going to be misaligned. Even if there's lots of attraction and love for that person, probably won't work long term. So I think respect and respect in communication. So knowing actually how to communicate, and communication is not just articulating the words, it's being able to truly listen and interpret what that other person's saying and help them feel heard and seen and understood so you guys can tackle the issue and challenge together consciously. I think is also a big piece. Again, another, I feel like I went down multiple different tangents on that question. This has been a rabbit hole of a podcast episode, but that's okay. I think we we're going where we need to. Next question. All right, three top points that you think makes a great leader out of your personal experience. Oh man, there's so many. I think transformational leadership. So being able to show up for a particular individual and group at any one time and actually understanding what they need. So a great leader to me meets people where they're at with a level of love and empathy and understanding. Now, love doesn't mean that you abdicate responsibility and you don't hold people to account on doing what they said they're going to do, right? Love means I love you regardless. And love means sometimes I'm going to be tough on you because I see the potential in you. I see more of who you could be if you locked in, if you let go of the BS and the distraction. So it's transformational leadership, it's love and authenticity. And actually just, it sounds so simple, but it's actually giving a shit about the person in front of you. A lot of people let me start that again. A lot of people think they want to be in leadership roles because of the title and the status it gets them, right? But they don't actually know how to be a leader. And I think that's very toxic. And I think majority of people, including myself, I'm learning more and more how to be a leader. Although I've gotten great feedback from previous team members and I appreciate them all, and I love all my team, the teams that I've built, and I've still got great relationships with a lot of them. Like even still, like you as a leader, it's like you're constantly learning. And if you're coming from the place of I just want to be in a leadership position for the title, wrong place. Leadership is about service. So it's servant leadership. It's heart-based leadership. It's not about you as a leader. Real leadership isn't about you. It's about the team and the individual and helping them be more of who they are. And a lot of people want to get into leadership positions because they like the idea and the title of it, and they like the power that it gives them and the status. And if you're getting into leadership for that, absolutely wrong reasons, and your team will feel that. And I've been in those positions very early on in my career. I thought I wanted to be in a leadership position, which I did, and I feel like I am called to leadership. But I was driven by, again, that of being on, like having that title and all those things, and still wanting to help and support. But that was a big driver, is having the title. Wrong reason. So actually being able to put your stuff aside, and be a servant leader is going to be a big piece. Being able to show up for each individual and understand what they need, really understand each individual and what drives them, what their goals are, what their ambitions are, so you can support them to be more of who they are inside work and outside of work. I think is a big piece. And just, leading with love. Leading with love. And sometimes love is tough, and sometimes love holds people accountable, and sometimes it's gentle, and sometimes it's nurturing, and it's whatever. It's being able to show up as a servant for whatever they need in that particular period. And the last thing I'll add there is, with all that in mind, it's like where leaders are great at helping individuals connect their individual goals to the group goal as well. This is how it aligns and connects to where we're going as a team. I think it's a big piece as well. Next question. What opportunities are you constantly saying no to now that you would have jumped at the opportunity 24 months ago? Great question. This is so good. Oh man, I love it. I'm loving this podcast. So 24 months ago, I said no to a business opportunity, buying a business about 2-3 months ago, because I felt like it wasn't in alignment to my definition of success and what it is that I was here to do. I would have jumped at that idea, right? It was a great deal on paper, but I was not aligned to it at all. And I think that there's a clear indicator of when you're becoming more and more who you are and more and more authentic is you say no to more things. So you say no to that creature comfort. You say no to opportunities that on paper look really good, but you know in your heart of hearts, and this is that discernment piece, you know in your heart of hearts that's not it. You start to say no a lot more. And this is why I love this question, is because I think, I've said no to business. I've said no to relationship opportunities that are not right. I've said no to, again, like little micro things, right? Micro and macro. I've said no to, like last night, I was like that close on ordering a pizza on Uber Eats. And I was like, again, it was that old thing of, I know this is small and it sounds silly, but it's actually a really big thing for me. I was like that close. And then I was looking at the pizza, I was looking at the calories, and I was like, no, like not it. And it's not to say that I won't order pizza in the future and I won't have a pizza in the future, but in that moment, that wasn't truth, right? So it's small things like that. It's saying no to, like I said, business opportunities, to role opportunities. I've had multiple role opportunities that, I would have been on really good money, would have been in a really solid role that I would have, been able to create some impact on, but knew it just wasn't it. So, there's lots of things I have said no to certain people in my life that I would have just tolerated. There's lots of things that I'm now saying no to that I would have said yes to 24 months ago, because I'm now living more and more authentic. And again, we change and evolve over time, so we're constantly having to check in with what's authentic. It's one foot in front of the other. It's like being here now. In 12 months' time, I might be a completely different person. In fact, if I'm not a different person in 12 months' time, I'll probably be concerned, because I would have stopped growing and learning and evolving. So, it's just constantly checking in to what's authentic and knowing thyself, so that you can say no to things that aren't in alignment to where you're going. I swear there was one more question here. It's saying that there was, oh, yeah, it's for some reason it's not coming up in the list, but there's one question that a friend asked me. Well, we're out to brekkie, and she put in the chat box, but I want to answer it for her. She asked something along the lines of, how do you know, like, when someone's showing a deal breaker in relationships? And like, or what is a deal breaker? And I think, look, that's a great question. And it's a question that only you can answer as an individual. So again, I think I said this earlier, people will, like, let people show you who they are. And that will give you everything you need to know. But you need to start with yourself. What are your values? What are your beliefs? What are you willing to tolerate and not tolerate? Like, who are you as a person and an individual? Because if you start there, then you can realize, based on alignment and authenticity on your beliefs and values, what's a deal breaker and what isn't, right? Like, what behavior is like, that ain't it. I'm not tolerating that. Or like, oh no, that's okay. Maybe just somebody else that might be perceived as a deal breaker, but I actually really align with that. So a really good example of this is, let's say one of your values is you really love work. You love working. You love business. You love hustling. You love all those things, right? And you're just in a season where you're working big hours, and your partner doesn't have that same value. They might perceive you working as a red flag, you overworking as a red flag. Whereas it's like, no, this is just a value of mine. Like, I love working. And it's not that I don't love being with you, but I love working and I'm in this season. They might perceive that as a red flag. Whereas another person who also enjoys working would be like, hell yeah, let's work together, right? Or like, hell yeah, you're working, I'm gonna do some work too. I love work, and in the opportunity, let's come together and let's work on our ideas and do our stuff together. So it's all context based. It's all about what's your values, what's your beliefs, what are you willing to tolerate, not tolerate. I can't tell you what a deal breaker is, because my deal breakers are going to be different to your deal breakers. And this is the piece. People are so quick to give advice and their perspective and 2 cents on somebody else's relationship when they're giving it from their own values and beliefs, where I think the best advice, if people ask for it, is given from when a person truly knows who you are and what your values are, and they hold you accountable to those values and beliefs, and they kind of say, hey, you want XYZ ABC, you are XYZ ABC, you have these values and beliefs. That isn't in alignment with that. So I'm just letting you know all the pieces, and obviously permission's a big piece when giving feedback. I always ask for permission when I'm giving feedback. But yeah, I think when and if you do give advice, and again, probably another side quest and rabbit hole, when and if you do give advice, make sure you're supporting them from their beliefs and their values and their perspective, not your own, and projecting your own onto that person, because that's their life, not yours. So, roundabout way to answer your question: figure out what your beliefs and values are. Figure out who you want to be. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Figure out who you want to be and what type of relationship you want. How you want to relate with that person, right? Like, how do you want to, like, what do you want to experience when you're with that person on a day-to-day? Not just the highlights, not just the peak moments. Like, how do you want to feel? How do they make you feel? I think if you get really clear on that, and again, this is where a lot of people go wrong, is it becomes this like weird almost like materialistic like list of things that they need to have. It's not about that. It's about values and beliefs and understanding yourself, so then you can really identify if a person is for you or they aren't. And how they make you feel is a big piece of that. Do you feel more at peace when you're around them? Do you feel like you can be more of who you are? Do you feel like you can let down the masks and the armor and feel safe around them? Or do you feel like you are anxious? And again, early days, butterflies, all normal. But do you feel anxious and feel like you can't say certain things because if you say certain things, then they might judge you? And do you feel like you're constantly on guard, or like you're like this versus relaxed? I think it's also a really big indicator of like your intuition telling you if this person's right for you or not. So yeah, do the work first, and then I'm sure we'll have a part 2 conversation offline of this podcast anyway. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. If you got this far, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you shared this episode as well. If you got this far, if you've got value, please do share. Please do support me on the Reels as well, if you feel called to, if you're getting value, obviously. But, podcasting is a very, very hard industry to crack. I'm not necessarily doing it for the outcome. I'm doing it for the process and the journey of it all. But the more support I can get, the gentler the journey will be. So I do really appreciate all the support that I've gotten so far. It's been awesome. It's been overwhelming. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. Hang out for the next episode, which is going to be our first ever guest, which is very exciting. I'm really excited for that. I'm sure I'll announce it very shortly. Chat soon. Be well.